Hey guys, Mark here. I'm working on the carburetor today. And yeah, this is a dual carburetor system. So I got one carburetor here, another carburetor here, and it's kind of interlinked with this center section. But I've got a rebuild kit, and it's got washers, nuts, screws, pins, needles, everything I need to rebuild this. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know exactly what to do or where to go with it, so I'm just going to start ripping things apart, putting them in a bucket, and getting them ready to get cleaned in a little bit of kerosene. And then when it comes to putting it all back together, well, I'll just do my best. That's more of why I record these things, just so I can see how they all go back together. All right, first of all, let's see. Now, there is an F there for front. There is an R there for rear. That way you know which one's which. So I'm just trying to think of where I want to go with this. Where do I want to start? You know what, I think I'm going to take the rear one off first. That one's not going to work. I got different size screwdrivers because, well, there's different size screws. Come on now. Let's play nice. All right, that one's loose. Let's see if I can get a hold of it with a pair of pliers. Okay, got that one loose. I'm hoping that they'll have new bolts in here for these. All right, I think I'm going to turn this off for a second, run outside and get some bigger screwdrivers. Something tells me that this screwdriver is going to be too big for it. Yeah, that one's not going to fit at all. Okay, that screw's completely rounded off now. How about the left side? Let's see if I can do any better on this side. That one's loose. That one's loose. And that one's loose. Okay. Now I've also got to remove this idler setting, and I've also got to remove the connector portion. And I'm not sure exactly how to do that, at least not yet. Well, the idler, let's just unscrew it from one side. All right, so this is the screw from the idler. Now that's loose. And this is the screw from the connector rod. All right, so there's a white nylon washer that was sitting, but the white nylon washer was sitting right on top of that, and then the screw passes through it and holds it all together. Okay, then there's this little, like, almost like a tie rod thing, and it looks like it's got cotter pins holding them together. So I'm just going to pull the cotter pin out on one side, and then the arm should pass through, I'm hoping. Maybe not. Maybe I should have taken it off on both sides. All right. I don't even think anyone used a cotter pin on this side. It looks like someone just stuck a staple in through it to hold it together. Okay, let's see if we can pull it out with the pliers. There we go. Yeah, that's all it was. It was a staple that someone put in there. That's what was in there, just that little staple. Okay, anyway, I got now, technically I think this is the front because the F is on that. You know, truthfully, it doesn't look bad. There's my O-ring that I'm going to get replaced. Idle linkage actually attaches to this piece right here. There's one screw missing. Here's the other one. So I'm actually going to put that back. There is a locking washer on there. All right, let's take off this. I believe in here is the diaphragm and the needle. Oh, that's normal. That's the spring. Sits in there. The little diaphragm looks good. It's well seated in there. Spring all looks good. This all looks good. I do have a new needle for it, so I can take that out. And so far, everything looks like it should be in good shape. So far. All right, now I'm going to take off these two screws here where that idle set was. All right, so under the cover is another spring, and it doesn't look like there's a difference on how the spring is set. This looks very familiar to the to that little diaphragm that was in the petcock, and I don't know if I can just pull it out. So there's this little tiny black washer. It goes, these are the mounting screws here, and it goes inside that little spot right there. So I'm going to take off this piece here. Looks like there's just two screws holding it on. And so far on this side, it actually looks pretty clean. Okay, there's a gasket that I'm going to be replacing. And this little, I don't know, house-shaped gasket goes to this piece that I just took off. And it looks like there's multiple items in here. There's an idle jet, and then there's your regular engine jet that's in there. So I need to take those two out because I believe I have both of them to be replaced. And truthfully, I don't know which jet is which. I don't know which one's the idle and which one's the regular. Come on. Okay, there we go. Now this one that I'm taking off, it's the taller one of the two. It's actually two pieces. So there's the first of the two pieces on this jet. You know what, let's get that out in a bit. Let's pull out this other small jet. That's the other jet I just pulled out. All right, so I was able to go outside and get a 8 mil long socket, and that actually fits on it. So that was the other portion to the shorter piece. Like I said, it's a two-piece system. Don't know why they made it like that. They could have made it just one piece. So this is the little house-shaped gasket that I'm going to use. This is the gasket that goes around the bell housing. And there's the needle that goes on the diaphragm there. Here's my new injector. I'm going to call that the small injector because the hole is much smaller. Oh, wow. Okay. I do not have a new one of these. I got to reuse this one. But I do have a new one of these little ones, so I can replace that. Put that in there. That one little tiny one that went in there, I actually got a new one of those. So I will replace that. All right, let's see. Then there's another down in here. That is another one that we got to pull out. Whoops. All right, that looks like that looks like some sort of a needle jet or something like that. You can see the little needle end. There's no hole that passes through, so this might regulate my air or something like that. I'm not sure exactly, but I've got a new one of those, and they even covered the pointy pin with a piece of plastic. Okay, whoa. So in where I pulled out this this little needle pin, I think this spring came out of there, but I've got replacement springs. I'm gonna put the pieces in my tub here. Make sure that there's no other things to fall off. And I'm not seeing anything. Put that in. Put that in. Don't really think I need to, but I'll throw that in anyway. Throw that in. That. Oh, what is this? All right, put that in there. I have to reuse that, so I'll put that in there. All right, I'm just gonna go get a little bit of a brush, give everything a scrub, and I'll be right back with you guys. All right, guys, I got the front carburetor all cleaned up and put back together. I know I didn't record it, I just wanted to get it done. Now what I wanna do though is I wanna work on the float. So I need to take out this little U-shaped pin, just like that. That's the pin I just took out. Float comes out with what's called the needle. There we go. So that's what you need to take out. I do have a new one. What a lot of people don't realize is that this rubber gets worn out fairly easily, and that's usually what causes issues. So I've got two, one for each side. So basically you hook it around that little lip right there and it just dangles. You place it back in, take your pin, try to line it up with the holes, and that's it. The float's done. The new needle is in. Well, let's put this on. Might as well finish off doing this. I don't think I've ever fought this hard to get this little gasket in place before. Okay, so I think I got all that in. All right, I gotta stop recording for a little while to try to figure out how to get that screw out. All right, good news, I was able to get that screw, that bolt undone because of vice grips. I was able to get it on there just enough to grab it and really torque it out. And that one I'm definitely not using. Now when I was putting on the front caliper, they gave me new mounting bolts to go on. Especially the one that I just took out, the hole is not long enough to account for this screw that they gave me, this bolt. So I actually have to resort back to one of my original bolts just for that hole. Now let's see if I can get this one off. Come on. Another staple clip. All right, get my pliers to hold on to that. Now let's try the needle nose. All right, there we go. All right, same thing with what's going on in here. I'm going to do same thing that I did on the other one. I'm going to do on this one. So I believe this is ready for a Caro bath. This right here looks great. So I'll just give everything a quick scrub and I'll be right back with you. I had a little time while I was scrubbing everything up and kind of letting everything dry, and I figured I'll go get a new battery for the camera, so I got that camera going again. But let's start getting everything back put together. So the long jet I put in, and I'm going to put in this one here. That's the one that has the two parts. I've already screwed them together. Get those put together, put that in, get it screwed in place, decently tight. I'm going to put this piece on. It's got a spring in there, and it's also got that little tiny black washer. The black washer goes into this spot. All right, so yeah, just like that. You see it there? All right, so now I can put a spring on there, little cover, push it down. Get the screws that hold it in place. Luckily, once you get that first screw in, it holds the lid in place, so you don't have to sit there and hold it for the second one. All right, now since I'm still working in this area, I'm going to go ahead and put that pointed needle with the spring, just like that. Put that in there and tighten that down. I have no idea how tight that's supposed to be either. Well, we go back to here. I'm gonna go back to where I put in those jets. This is the lid to it. It's gonna take the house-shaped gasket on there, but I've got this, I don't know if it's an air control thing, that goes right in there like that. And when I took this out, it was really quite tight in there, and I'm assuming that's the way it's supposed to be. So that's in. Put in my little O-ring. Put it in place. One screw in. Just kind of double check it, make sure everything's all seated, looks good. Now let's put all this stuff back together. Now, I want to show you this. I'm going to drop the needle into here, but if you look inside of there, you'll see that little raised sleeve goes right inside of that sleeve. So the needle goes inside of that sleeve, but I gotta put this in first. As far as I can tell, there's not a directional to it. Maybe there is. If it doesn't fit one way, try it the other. All right, so. All right, so you can see how the needle falls down into that sleeve. The spring and that plastic piece go in. The plastic piece, the little legs go downwards. So that goes on like that. And then the lid goes on, and the lid has little teeth up here on the top. And of course, you put that inside the spring. Make sure they're all tight. Okay, that's in, that's on. The fun part is trying to get this gasket on and get that on. I actually really fought with the front, so I found that stretching the gasket just a little bit, this O-ring, hopefully that helps out, because it helped out on the first one, but it was still a pain in the butt. Place it on there. Okay, it's sitting right. All right. I think I got it on right. Then I gotta use that one old one for that one screw there. All right. Now the fun of trying to make sure I can get everything pieced back together the way it's supposed to be. There we go. All right. Now, nylon. It's got a little brass fitting in there. And that holds this linkage in place on one of these. So, put that in like that. Okay. So yeah, there we go. The linkage is working. Now, one of the things you want to check, these little air doors here. You can hear that. That's actually what you want to hear, and it should come down on its own. So that's what you're wanting to check. So there's my other one. So yep, all those are good. So I believe my carburetor is completely rebuilt, cleaned, and ready to go. I just want to add this a little bit at the end of this carburetor build, because there's a couple of things that I missed, okay? And I want to get it sorted out. I want to show you. When I bought my rebuild kit, all right, this is basically the rebuild kit that I purchased, okay? The little house-shaped O-ring, the actual O-ring, the needles that go on the diaphragm that goes up and down. These are the sharp pointed needle screws, I think they're called. And then down here we got the, I want to call them that they're the pilot jet, I think is what those are. And then these little screws were the main jet. And then the part that I didn't get was the part that those screwed onto, and it's just basically like an extension is all it really was. These were the 4 screws, you know, gotta remember this is for both sides. So the 4 screws that held down that diaphragm that controlled the needles. And then these were mounting screws. And then of course the float needles. And then this here was the 2 O-rings, or actually they're more like a washer. They're not really an O-ring. And that was on the coasting inhibitors. But then I had 4 O-rings, little tiny ones, and 2 little tiny washers, metal washers. I don't see a reason why they have them. I don't recall ever seeing those when I took the carburetor apart. So I was actually sitting here, I was looking at my carburetor. I think they call them an explosion, because you can see all the little bits and pieces, right? So this is the area where I was looking at. Okay, there's my jet needle. Goes into the diaphragm. It's held in place with the spring. There's the cap. And then these are my, you know what, let's zoom in a little bit. All right, so there's my pilot screw and spring. There's the main jets and the pilot jet and that coasting enricher. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I was looking at the pilot screw. You know, it's got the pilot screw and the spring, which I put on, but there's two things by it right in front of it. So yeah, I'm sitting there looking at it going, well, that looks like a metal washer and an O-ring. So I went back through and I took off that pilot screw, and I actually took just a small paper clip, and I straightened it out a little bit, and I put a very tiny bend at the very end of it, and I reached down into that hole where the pilot screw goes, and I pulled out just an O-ring. I didn't have the washer, just an O-ring. It's like, well, that I didn't realize that was even in there. So I ended up taking that out. I basically did exactly what they did here. I put one of the metal washers on each one, of course. So I put a metal washer on there, and then I also put an O-ring on there and then put it back. But I still had 2 O-rings left. And I was thinking to myself, well, maybe they just gave me a couple extras in case I lost them, because those things are small. But I kept on looking at my diagram here, and I'm sitting there looking at my main jets and the pilot jet and all this other stuff, but it was this one here. Now, I don't know what this is called. I don't know what it's for, but it goes onto the housing of it. It kind of looked like the jet screw up here, the pilot screw, but it didn't have the long pointy bit to it, okay? And I saw that there. Oh, damn it, that's a washer. So this screw, it screws right into the housing cover to the main jet and stuff. Well, that has a washer on it. So I went out there and I dug around in the hole a little bit, and I did not see a washer in that hole at all. So it was like, you know, is it supposed to have one or not? So I did put the washer on just loosely. I didn't like slide it down over the shaft of that screw at all. I just put it on the tip and put it in there and just lightly put it, you know, I put it in to where it's tight, it won't move, you know, but at the same time, you know, I didn't want to really torque it down either. I didn't want to break that little rubber O-ring. All right, I just wanted to quickly do this little update for this video right at the very end, just to say that I did put it in there and I did do it and stuff. And even with the that pilot screw, you screw it in all the way, and then you back it off probably about, I would say, a turn and a half. And then they say that's about where it should be, and then when you actually get the bike running and stuff like that, you can tweak those just a little bit, you know, get your richness setting set properly. You know, if I'm getting a lot of spitting and sputtering and, you know, herky jerkies and stuff like that, then I'll end up having to go in and readjust it and make sure that my my fuel mixture isn't too rich or too lean or anything like that. So, all right, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the road.